Hi everyone, it's Bill Straub with Modern Thirst, and today we're going to have a quick review of Redemption Wheated Bourbon. Now, Redemption Bourbon is as it says on the label, of course, it's a wheated bourbon, and that means that its secondary or flavoring grain is wheat as opposed to the more common rye. That means that this is going to be more along the lines of something like Maker's Mark or Old Fitzgerald or Larceny, and probably more popular Weller from Buffalo Trace, as well as, of course, Pappy Van Winkle. Those are all wheated bourbons. Typically, wheat bourbon and rye bourbon, they still have at least 51% corn, but the difference can be, I always sum it up as saying it's the difference between wheat bread and rye bread. Rye is spicy, you get a lot of citrusy notes, and wheat is very soft, it has a very viscous mouthfeel, and it's a little creamier and sweeter on the palate. So typically that's what we're expecting when we're looking for a wheated bourbon. In this case, this is 48% alcohol, which makes it 96 proof, and it's 4 years old, age stated on the back of the bottle. This is Indiana juice, so it was distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana by most likely MGP, and also bottled there, although I believe that Redemption is not owned by MGP. It is made and bottled and aged there. So let's give it a taste. We'll start out with the aroma. Yeah, it's very sweet on the nose, a lot of corn, a lot of vanilla, and a very heavy, simple syrup, kind of sugary, kind of mild hints of some peach or apricot on there. But really, this is more on the baked goods side. Kind of reminds me of being in a bakery with wedding cake and frosting all around you, and you kind of get those very sweet, sugary smells. So the mash bill on this is 51% corn, 45% winter wheat, and 4% malted barley. This is batch number 2, if I didn't mention that before. So let's get on to the tasting here. So we taste everything in a Glencairn. It seems to be the best vessel we found so far. Yeah, it's very sweet. As you can see, I've had a good amount of this already, so this isn't new to me. This is an exceedingly sweet bourbon. You don't get a lot of the corn on the palate. You get a lot of simple syrup, maybe a little bubble gum, some kind of cake frosting. A little bit of oak, but you do get a little bit of barrel tannins there on the back end. Finish is probably short to medium in length. This is not a particularly lasting bourbon. It's also not that complex. It's very viscous it's very creamy on the palate. I get a little bit of fruit, you know, at the very tail end, maybe some kind of light peaches or baked apples. But all in all, this is a pretty nice bourbon. I think this cost me somewhere around $35. I don't think it's really that common. I think they release it in batches and it probably sells out relatively early because, of course, wheated bourbons are all the rage these days. I kind of prefer rye as that secondary grain. I like the spiciness of bourbon. That's kind of the more traditional bourbon flavor. But this is a pretty good example of this. It's a little more complex than a straight up Maker's Mark. It's not quite, the proof really doesn't get you up high enough to challenge an Old Weller Antique or something like that. But it's a really nice, easy drinking, light bourbon. It's very sweet. So if sweet is your thing with bourbon, this is probably your whiskey. I like it. On the Modern Thirst scale, this gets an 87. You can check us out at ModernThirst.com if you want to see all sorts of bourbon reviews. We're approaching 300 different whiskeys reviewed on the site. If you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/ModernThirst. And we're here on YouTube, and you can check us out online. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and go find yourself some Redemption Wheated. Cheers.